Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. My name is Julie Samia Mayer, and I'm here to do a book reading with you all today. I first want to thank the Diyanet Center of America for inviting me to read one of my stories. I also want to thank all of you for joining me today and sharing your time with me. And I really hope you enjoy the book. When I normally do a book reading, there's a question and answer session at the end. Because things are a little different now and there's not a live audience, what I thought I would do is answer a question that I get asked a lot, and that is, can you give me some writing tips? And so after I read the story, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 10 tips that will help you with your writing. And they are 10 tips that I still use today for my writing. And when I give lectures or a discussion with adults, these are 10 tips I give them. So I hope they'll be useful. The book I'm reading today is one of my books. It's called Zack and His Little Lies. I know that some who are listening have this book, and it is the second in the Zack series. The first book is Zack and His Good Intentions. And in both books, Zack is one of my favorite characters of my books, by the way. In both books, Zack gets himself in a little bit of trouble. So I think he's a lot of fun. You might wonder why we are reading a book about lies in the middle of Ramadan. You might say, Ramadan's a time that we're supposed to be doing really good deeds and extra worship and charity and helping our neighbors and helping our parents. And that is true. Ramadan is all that, but Ramadan is also a month of mercy and forgiveness. It's a month of forgiveness. And I don't know if you know this, but there are 1.9 billion Muslims in the world today. And that's almost 2 billion people, and that is a lot of people. And right now, all over the world, Muslims are celebrating Ramadan. And probably millions of Muslims right now are asking Allah Ta'ala for forgiveness. So what we're going to do is that even though Zack and His Little Lies isn't a book about Ramadan, it is a book directly about Ramadan. It is a book about mercy and forgiveness. And because of that, it fits right into what Ramadan is all about. Now, there are two beautiful names of Allah Ta'ala that we're talking about, and that is the All-Merciful and the All-Forgiving. And in the Quran, I counted them, and if I'm correct, those two beautiful names are together mentioned in the Quran over 70 times. And that is a lot. So again, that leads into that Ramadan is a month of forgiveness and mercy. So we're going to get started with this, and I really hope you enjoy it. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Zack was having a great day. He had only one more chore to do, delivering baklava to some neighbors. After that, Baba had promised to take him and Hannah to the new skateboard park. Zack, his mother called from downstairs, make sure that the lid to Dwayne's terrarium is on tightly before leaving. Zack looked at the terrarium. The lid was off, and Dwayne, his pet bearded dragon, was nowhere to be seen. Dwayne, Zack whispered, wherever you are, stay here and be good. Now, I don't know if you could see, but Dwayne is hiding right above the door. And in this book, Dwayne is hiding in different pictures. So what some of the kids like to do is try to find Dwayne. Zack, is Dwayne in his terrarium? Mama asked as he was walking down the stairs. Zack hesitated. He didn't want to tell his mama that Dwayne had escaped again, but he didn't want to lie either. Zack thought about telling the truth. But instead, he said, safe and sound. Hannah started to giggle. What's so funny? Zack asked angrily. Hannah pointed to his shoulder. Dwayne was sitting there comfortably with a big grin on his face. What did Bob and I tell you about lying? Mama asked. If you lie one more time today, there will be no skateboard park later. Do you understand? Zack nodded. He knew his mama was right. Good, she said. Please put Dwayne back. Then you and Hannah can deliver these 2 boxes of baklava to the neighbors. Zach ran to his room quickly and quickly put Dwayne back. He then hurried back downstairs, excited to finish his last chore. At the front door, he grabbed a box of pastries from his mama and jumped on his skateboard. "Whatever you do, kids, do not even go near Miss Martha's flower bed," Mama said as they were leaving. "She still hasn't forgotten when Dwayne ate her geraniums." Their first stop was Mrs. Clark's house. Mrs. Clark opened her door and Zach handed her a box of baklava. These smell great," Mrs. Clark said. "I'm sure you will raise a lot of money for your masjid with these. Hannah, come with me and I'll give you the money. Zach, the boys are in the kitchen. I'm sure they'd love to see you." Zach wasn't so sure he wanted to see them. Mrs. Clark's sons were a few years older than Zach, and they teased him a lot in school. "Little Zachy," one of the boys said when Zach walked into the kitchen, "I dare you to try one of my mom's famous jalapeno fireballs." He picked up a plate full of food and thrust it under Zach's nose. Zach had never heard of a jalapeno fireball before, but it sounded hot and spicy. And he didn't like hot and spicy things at all. If he told the truth, the older boys would tease him. But he didn't want to lie because he really wanted to go to the new skateboard park. Zach thought about telling the truth. But instead, he said, "I love fireballs," and grabbed the biggest jalapeno on the plate, plopping it into his mouth. As soon as he bit into it, he knew that he had made a big mistake. He started to sweat. His eyes teared. His cheeks tingled. His tongue burned. He felt like a volcano was erupting in his mouth. "Ah!" Zach screamed. The fireball was too hot to swallow, so he ran outside to spit it out. He could hear the brothers laughing behind him. Zach waited for Hannah outside. He was embarrassed and upset, and it still felt like he was breathing fire. "Lying isn't good," he thought. "What's wrong with you? Come on, let's go," Hannah said when she saw him. She wanted to drop off the last box of baklava as quickly as possible to get to the new skateboard park. She was excited as well. Zach jumped on his skateboard and followed Hannah, who was almost running now. Zach caught up with Hannah at Miss Pat's letterbox. Suddenly, they heard the loud barking coming from her house. Zach froze. "You're not still scared of dogs, are you?" Hannah asked, a little surprised. Zach had been terrified of dogs ever since a giant dog knocked him over when he was younger. If he told the truth, Hannah would know that he was still afraid. But he didn't want to lie either because he really wanted to go to the new skateboard park. Zach thought about telling the truth. But instead, he said, "Not scared at all." Zach grabbed the pastry box from Hannah and headed for Miss Pat's front door without her. When he knocked on the door, the dog barked even louder. "Back, Moose, back," Miss Pat yelled from inside. As soon as Miss Pat opened the door, the dog burst out. "Ah!" Zach dropped the pastry box and dashed straight for the slide at the side of the house. When he was safely at the top, he looked down to see the ferocious dog that was chasing him. Now, Moose, you shouldn't be scaring people," Miss Pat said as she picked up her little pooch and patted his head gently. "Here, honey, you don't want to leave without this." Miss Pat handed Zach some money and walked back inside. "Not scared at all," Hannah said as she approached Zach, laughing. Zach said nothing and slid down the slide. Lying isn't good, he thought as he walked to get his skateboard at the letterbox. "I'll tell you what," Hannah said. "I won't tell Mama that you lied about being scared of the little dog if you race me home." Zach did not like to race Hannah. She always won. But maybe he had a chance this time. He had his skateboard, and she would be on foot. I guess so, he said. Ready, set, go, Hannah said, sprinting off down the pavement before Zach had picked up his skateboard. That's not fair, Zach yelled. I wasn't even ready. Zach jumped on his skateboard and chased after Hannah. She was still in the lead when they were about a block away from home. But first, they had to pass Miss Martha's flower bed. You better slow down at the corner, Zach yelled to Hannah. Remember what Mama said. Don't worry about me, Hannah shouted back. Watch this. Hannah did a grand jeté leap over Miss Martha's flower bed like a prima ballerina. At precisely that moment, Miss Martha looked out her window to admire her flowers. Instead, she saw Hannah soaring over her precious flower bed. She did not wait to see where Hannah landed. She ran to get her phone to call Hannah's mother. Zach, who was catching up, saw Hannah land safely. She had not touched a single pedal, but she was slowing down. He was sure that he could still beat her. Suddenly, Dwayne seemed to appear out of nowhere, right in front of him. Watch out, Zach screamed. Zach swerved just in time, saving Dwayne, but he rolled straight through the middle of Miss Martha's beautiful flowers, leaving a very unfortunate path. Miss Martha just called me very upset, Mama said as soon as Zach walked in the door. Uh-oh, Zach thought, I'm in trouble now. She saw Hannah leaping over her flower bed, and now her flowers are trampled. Hannah said that she didn't touch them. Do you know what happened? Zach knew exactly what had happened. If he told the truth, he would get in big trouble. But he didn't want to lie either because he really wanted to go to the new skateboard park. Zach thought about telling the truth. But instead he said, nope, I have no idea. Zach walked up the stairs to his room. He heard Baba talking to Hannah and Hannah crying as he passed by her room. He felt terrible. Lying isn't good, he thought. I'm ready, Baba burst into Zach's room. He was all decked out in skateboard gear, looking rather silly for a Baba. Me too, Zach said glumly. Zach felt badly because of all the lies he had told that day, especially about Hannah and the flowers. Why the sad face? Baba asked. Zach didn't want to tell his Baba why he was so sad. Zach thought about telling the truth. And he did. He saw his Quran on the bookshelf and remembered the ayah, nothing in the earth and in the heavens is hidden from Allah. And Zach realized that even if his parents didn't know about all of his lies, Allah knew. He also remembered what the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said about being truthful, especially that truthfulness leads to good deeds and good deeds leads to Jannah. Suddenly, going to the new skateboard park didn't seem that important anymore. Zach told his Baba everything that had happened that day, including all of his lies. When Zach was done, Baba said, the truthful men and the truthful women, for them Allah has prepared forgiveness and a great reward. Tears filled Zach's eyes. I'm not one of the truthful, he said. Don't be sad, Baba said. This ayah is about you. You told the truth about your lies. Allah is the most forgiving, the most merciful. You should never lose hope in Allah's mercy. Zach, how do you think you can make this right? Zach thought for a moment. I can start by telling Mama and Hannah the truth about the flowers, and then I have some neighbors to visit and a flower bed to fix. Zach smiled to himself. Telling the truth feels great, he thought, as he led the way to Miss Martha's house. And you can see at the end, Miss Martha is waiting for them. And she doesn't look happy, but hopefully she will be happy after they fix her flower bed. Now, I want to point out something about the story. At the end of the book, there are discussion questions first. And what we do normally in book readings is we go through some of them, and we ask the audience. But what I'm just going to do is point out a couple, and then maybe you and your family could talk about it, because it's good. These are good things to talk about, especially in Ramadan. And one of them is, what do you think Zach thought Zach was more important than going to the new skateboard park at the end of the story? So he thought he wasn't so thrilled about the skateboard park anymore. And so why was that? And then this is very important for Ramadan. It's down near the bottom. Do you know what the word Toba or repent means? If you do something wrong in Islam, Allah tells us to make Toba. How do you make Toba to Allah? And that would be a really good thing to do in this month of forgiveness, and for you to make Toba, or if you would like to try it. And then this one is one of my favorites, because a lot of my stories have animals in them. And it's a lot of people treat animals as, their pets as toys. But animals are not pets. They're a trust from Allah. They're a living creature, so we have to take care of them. And so this question says, why is it important to take care of your pet? Pets aren't toys. What does that mean? If someone is mistreating an animal, what would you do? So those are just some questions for you to ponder and discuss with your family members. And then the last page, which is really connected to the cover, are the ayah in the Quran that are mentioned, and the hadith. And actually, this is a good time to maybe think about these ayah, because the Quran was revealed in Ramadan. So you could discuss these ayah with your family members about what they mean, and maybe when they came down, when they were revealed. So that's that with that book, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now we're going to look, what I said at the beginning is we were going to look at 10 tips, because people ask me, do you have any advice about writing? And I do have advice. And this is stuff that I found useful for me, and I hope you could see it. But let's go through a couple of these little things. There's 10 of them. Write what you know about. The best stories are the stories that you have experienced and that you know things about, because you're right there, so it's easy to write about them. And I'll give you two examples from my book, The Great Race to Sycamore Street. In this book, this is a chapter book for little kids anywhere from 10 to 11, 12. Some adults have read it and liked it. And for younger kids, parents have read it to them. But in this story is about cicadas. And I don't know if you know what cicadas are, but we're about to have them where I live. And they're called the 17-year cicada. And they come out of the ground, and they're these big, big bugs. And they literally come out in the millions, maybe billions. And it's deafening. And they're really kind of, people actually eat them. But they're really, it is a part of nature that everyone should experience. And so in this story, because it's such a fascinating thing, subhanAllah, I talk about cicadas, and I could talk about them because I've experienced it. But also in this story is, there's passages about archery and pie baking and peach tree growing. And I didn't know anything about any of those. But you want to write what you know about. So I researched them, and I researched them. So just because you don't know it's about something before you write the story, you can research it, and then you can write it. And what's really good is stories, the best stories I like to write are stories that are entertaining, but they also educate. So the first tip is write what you know about. The second tip is write what you would like to read. If you are bored reading your own story, I guarantee you other people will be bored. So write what you're having fun about. Have your own voice. Listen to yourself. I mean, it's always good to get feedback, but really this is your story about what you want to enjoy. So write what you like about. And I really feel, everyone has their own voice and something to say. I mean, everybody can write a story. And so this way, when you stick to what you like, it usually works out well. This is something that is very important is to carry a notebook and pencil with you everywhere, or if you put it in a phone, if you have a phone, because there's a saying that says truth is stranger than fiction. And it is so true. You'll be out somewhere and something amazing will happen, and you'll think, wow, that would be really good to put in a story, but you don't have anything to write and you'll forget about it. So I always, wherever I go, have I'm old school. I don't use my phone. I have a notebook and I have a pencil or a pen, and you write it in there. And over time, you'll collect all these little different things you've seen, and you might not put them all in the same story, but you might use them 5 years later. But it's very important to do that. It's also important that you might come up with a great idea about a story, and you want to write it down so you don't forget. The next one, this is number 4, is think about your story. When I start to write, I get the characters, and I always have to get the characters' names before I really start writing because it makes me identify with them. But you could be in your car, you could be walking to school, you could be playing in the park, but start thinking about your story and where you want to go. And at the strangest times, it's just amazing. You'll figure out what you want to say next or the next chapter. And this is especially good if you're working on a story and you're sort of stuck about where you want to go next. Tip number 5, vary your words. You don't want to use the same word over and over again. Now, that doesn't mean you don't repeat things, especially in picture books, you might repeat things. So in Zach and His Little Lies, a few times we said, Zach thought about telling the truth. But so that's okay because that teaches people vocabulary. But what I'm talking about is I'm going to read an example, a few sentences, and you tell me, you think about it. You can't tell me, but think about which one you like better. So listen to this first one. Hannah loved to walk to the store near her house. To get there, she walked across an old wooden bridge that swayed back and forth. The bridge ended in a field of wildflowers. Walking through the field was her favorite part. The grass tickled her feet as she walked, and the air smelled so sweet. Walked, 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 walked. That gets kind of boring, doesn't it? Now, if you just switch the words around, the story is just much stronger. Hannah loved to walk to the store near her house. To get there, she crossed an old wooden bridge that swayed back and forth. The bridge ended in a field of wildflowers. Moving through the field was her favorite part. The grass tickled her feet, and the air smelled so sweet. So you can see there's a lot of difference of those two paragraphs. Okay. Tip number 6, and this is sort of related. And this is vary the types of sentences. So you don't want everything to start with a noun. You want your sentences to be varied because, again, that makes it more interesting. So I'm going to give you another example. So this is the one that everything's the same. Sarah could not believe her eyes. Sarah had never seen a horse that big. Sarah slowly walked up to the fence and held out a carrot. Sarah screamed when the horse reached for the carrot with its big teeth. Again, Sarah, 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 Sarah. Now, you could just switch things around a little bit and you have a much stronger paragraph. Sarah could not believe her eyes. She had never seen a horse that big. Slowly, she walked up to the fence and held out a carrot. When the horse reached for the carrot with its big teeth, Sarah screamed. So you see, again, the story is much stronger. Now, the next one, tip 7, this is one of my favorite things, and this I do all the time, and sometimes it takes a long time. I forget how many pages my one book is, but I read it all out loud several times, and you do that. You want to read your work out loud. It's amazing when you're reading just with your eyes, your eyes will play tricks on you. It'll miss things like words that are doubled or misspellings, but when you read out loud, you will see where the problems are. So this is a thing that I forget who told me about this tip, but it was one of the best things I'd ever learned about writing. And really enjoy yourself when you're reading out loud. It's fun because it will pick up things. Tip number 8. Read, read, read. Read lots of books and stories written by famous authors and others. And you want to ask yourself 2 questions when you're reading. What do you like about their writing? I mean, why do you like this story? Is it flowery writing? Is it direct? Is it exciting? So you want to, do they use a lot of adverbs or adjectives? So you want to read and sort of get an idea what you like to read, and is that a way you'd kind of like to write? And then you want to ask yourself, what makes the story interesting to you? So there might be things in there might be humor, you like humor, or suspense, or it's a mystery. But the point is to read books, not only for fun, but if you want to read them and sort of think about why you like this book or why this book you didn't like as much, and that'll help you with your writing. And I don't know if you can guess what the next one is. If it's read, 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 tip number 9 is write, write, write. And just like anything else, writing takes practice. Try writing different things. Try writing different ways. Try writing, outside, inside, lying on the couch, whatever. Just write. And it gets easier and easier and easier. I guarantee it. And then this is my last one, tip number 10, is something that is, I think, maybe the most important thing. Have fun. So many people just want to see the book finished, right? You're writing and you have these characters and you want to get it done, but the process is so important because the process is the time you're spending on it, and you want to have fun throughout the whole process. And also, that's when you get to learn about your characters and just really appreciate what you're writing. So I can't emphasize enough how much you should just really enjoy your writing. And if you're not enjoying it, put it down for a few days or a week or 3 weeks. But really look at this as a whole process and not just an end product. So those are the tips, the 10 tips that I have for you. And I hope they are useful. And let me see what else. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. And then I just wanted to say thank you. I had a lovely, lovely time today. I thank you so much for your attention. You could be doing anything else, and you spent your time with me, so I appreciate that. If you haven't watched the author Shamsa Ahmed read her book, Khadija and Kat, Ramadan is Here. She did that last week. Please check it out. And it's really nice. At the end, she has a really fun craft. So I recommend doing that. And then next week, I believe, there's another storyteller. So please tune in. And I believe it'll be on the Diyanet Center's YouTube and I believe the Facebook channel as well. But definitely turn in because they're going to be really good stories. So I want to ask Allah, may Allah Ta'ala grant you all a blessed Ramadan and grant you more than what you hope for. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu alla ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you.